CPI came out yesterday. What you're seeing here is a chart of the S&P. It's just a 30-minute chart. And you can kind of see when the news came out, they dumped it off here, but they pretty much ricocheted it back up throughout the day yesterday, even though we were still a little bit lower than where we started out with the news. Um, and today, the CPI came out and was basically pointing the exact same direction that we had higher inflation. There you go. But yet this morning, they rallied it, and finally they've broken back above these little highs here, and the S&P is back above 6,100. So, but the crazy thing about it, people saw this and said, "Oh no, the sky is falling." And when you go out and just look at a daily chart of the S&P, it really hadn't gone anywhere since the election. Um, I mean, literally, we've been stuck in this little range right here, just chewing around, going back and forth. And so until really they start breaking below, I don't know, you could argue 58.50 on the S&P or get above that high up there at 61.78, then we're really not doing much of anything. It's just a chew chop, index market. Um, so when you're, looking at just the data itself, you get to kind of scratching your head a little bit saying, why'd you cut interest rates to start with? And now here we are getting inflation back in again. And I mean, they went out there and cut in September, October, and December, right? So, and they really didn't need to do that, but they did it anyway. And so now they're saying, well, there's no need to rush into no adjusting rates. Well, you might need to adjust them back up just because inflation is starting to come back in. But that's for their debate and their problem. We'll just deal with it when it hits the market. So anyway, I think overall, I mean, the S&P is definitely stronger than weaker. So I don't see, I mean, things aren't all that bad. Things are holding up well, maybe is the best way of putting it, right? So, but I think right now, we're on the stronger side of things as opposed to weaker side. I mean, heck, we're only 70 points from the all-time high in the S&P. So what the heck? And if they can, get up there and pop a new high, well, then I guess they kind of shrugged off what the inflation numbers are doing and what Powell's been saying and kind of going from there. On the other side, if you want to see a trending market, let's just kind of look at this one. This is gold. And you can kind of see here, it's been on a tear. It has gone up and it's made new all-time highs. There you go. Went up to 29.68. And right now, kind of corrected back down a little bit, but it's kind of popped back up and doing all right. Even yesterday, kind of yanked it back off the CPI news, but they turned it right back around again, and now we're back up here to 50 or 29.50. It's kind of interesting how how gold kind of hangs every 50 points. It'll hang on 2,900. It'll hang on 2,950. We're probably going to hang on, basically 3,000 if you think about that. And then once we get above 3,000, we'll have 3,050, 3,100, and so on and so forth. So I don't see where silver and copper and gold are going to be pulling back any. There was an interesting little blurb that caught my ear, and I mean, I was in a car listening to the radio. There you go, right? I was traveling this week and I was in Florida with Tom Busby teaching a class, and I was driving back from Jacksonville, Florida yesterday. It's a 6.5 hour trip. And so I was flipping through the radio station and just trying to find news stations here and there. And there was a lady on there. She was talking about that on the books of the United States, I forget how many tons of gold that the United States still owns there. But anyway, on the books, it's valued at $42 an ounce. Now, I was just like, what? And then she said it again a minute or two later that it was valued at $42 an ounce. They said they just revalue it to 2,900. That would give the United States basically like $880 billion. and they would actually have that credited to the their account, if you will. And if they did that, and then she said, but they've also been talking about revaluing gold to $6,000 an ounce. And I was just like, you can't do that. I mean, we have never been to $6,000 an ounce. So I don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to manipulate something. And so gold's been kind of shooting up with all the little rumors and everything like that, I think, going out there about revaluing this, that, and the other. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that really pans out. Like I said, I haven't gone in and researched it. That's just what they were saying on the radio. So take that with a grain of salt, if you will. Um, but I did think it was very interesting that on the United States accounting books, that the gold that they have is still at $42 an ounce, which probably back in the 30s and 40s, it probably was. Um, but it's not now. So, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But I think gold is going to continue to be on a bullish run. Nothing ever goes straight up. You'll have corrections back along the way. But I'm looking for this thing to try to get to at least 3,500 at least this year, if not a little higher than that. So it'll be fun as it goes to try to get there. But right now, I mean, you just look at, the past, just this year, gold's been doing really, really well. And I think it will continue to perform that way. Silver's been kind of lagging back a little, even though it had a nice little spurt up. And actually, copper is actually your stronger market. It's up 17% on the year. Gold and silver both are up about 11% on the year. So not from those lows down there in December that you see here on the chart. But for just the year itself, gold and silver are up about the same amount, about 11%. So they're kind of in sync with each other. Copper was the one that got hit the hardest because of China. The China slowed down. They're a huge manufacturer. I think everybody knows that. So there was less demand on copper, and it went from 5.15 an ounce all the way down to about $4. It finally kind of flipped back around, and now it's back up to 470. So I was waiting for it to get back above 450 to really do something. But anyway, now that we're above that 470, odds are it's probably going to try to get up to probably around the 490 to $5 area. But we'll just kind of see how that goes along the way. Um, but I think the metals in general are your bullish folks. Even if you've been watching the weather and everything like that, natural gas has been doing pretty well. And it was kind of in the doldrums for a good while. But with the winter weathers that we've had, whipping across, especially the Midwest and the Northeast and stuff like that, has put a lot of energy, if you will, no pun intended there, into the natural gas market, and it's continued to kind of push higher. So um, everybody's been hearing about eggs there. We had the World Ag Supply come out on Tuesday. That's the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates. That's what that is. So they look at, global production of grains and everything like that. They have wheat here in the United States. We have less supply because of more demand for food. And of course, when they start looking at the rest of the world, of course, Ukraine, they're going to have a decreased supply, right? I think everybody understands that. But they're also thinking that Argentina is going to have less wheat and Brazil is going to have less corn. So that might put more demand on what we have. And a lot of people, always wonder, how much corn do we use, this, that, and the other? Well, 85% of the corn that we produce here in the United States is not used by us. It's either used for either ethanol, feed, or they export it somewhere. The other 15% we keep in the United States and use it. So we have tons of grain. If we wanted to keep it, we could sustain ourselves quite well. The thing is, they can't just hold it, and because the farmers don't get paid, right? So they got to try to sell it somewhere, whether it's to, I don't know, Del Monte or sell it to the feedlots or sell it to somebody else in the world who wants it. So that's the thing is they do need to make sure they can sell those grains somewhere so they can continue to produce them and continue to farm and everything like that. Because if the farmer doesn't make any money, then he can't keep his land, and it gets into a huge mess. So, but that's the thing about the USDA and the World Ag Supply. We kind of get to see where all the who's doing what where, how's the weather doing here and there, and are we going to continue to be exporting and selling our grains around. The big thing is, of course, the big T word, right? Tariffs. And so they're wondering when those are going to, get slammed in, and how much is it going to hurt the, the farmer producer and stuff like that. And that's still to be seen. He hadn't slapped. I mean, he keeps threatening people come back and go, hey, we'll do this and this and this. So he doesn't do it, right? He delayed, Mexico and Canada for another month to see what they're going to be doing and this, that, and the other. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and what that does to the agricultural markets and even the energy markets and stuff like that. So, and that's what I've been kind of keeping track of. They're still trying to, I guess, confirm all these secretaries of whatever. I guess his cabinet. I don't know what you call it, the thing, but I mean, didn't really watch the news at all, or anything like that the past 3 or 4 days, except for listening to in the radio yesterday. And I got home and looked at my wife and said, have they confirmed anybody? And she goes, oh, no. She goes, with you gone, she goes, I hadn't been watching the news much. I was like, oh, okay, fine. So, but yeah, that's the thing. But I'll start digging into that and trying to catch up on what's going on. I know that on the egg production side, there are 180 million dozen eggs shy. And of course, it's because of that avian flu thing. Even the boiler count was down because they had to cull out a bunch of chickens. So, but they're still producing right now somewhere around 8.6 billion dozen eggs. I guess people in the United States eat a lot of eggs. Of course, they're in just about everything, right? So, but anyway, there's still quite a few eggs out there. But I did hear that, like Costco and Sam's and all that stuff were limiting the number of boxes slash, cartons or whatever of eggs that people could buy, just to, let everybody else have some. Otherwise, people would just hoard them and everything like that. But anyway, I think that's going to get resolved. It doesn't take long to, hatch a chicken and get the chicken up to egg laying age. I mean, probably it'll be the second half of the year. But it's not like beef that takes, a couple, 3 years to build a herd. So, um, but I mean, that's the one thing when I was coming through, the Florida Panhandle, there's a lot of ranchers out there with cattle. I saw a lot of calves. So, the calving out here in Florida is looking really good, from what I saw, and that's not very much. It's just across the Panhandle of Florida. But anyway, but I always kind of watch for things like that when I'm driving around and looking at things. So, but anyway, I would stay on the long side of the metals. I think you're gonna continue to chew and chop in the indexes. I think it's just kind of touch and go, economic data wise. But you got a brand new administration. What are they doing? What are they seeing? What are they saying? And all that stuff. And I think it's going to be chewing and chopping until we start finding a definite trend of what's going to be going on. You're only talking about 3 weeks since the administration's been here. Not everybody's in their position yet. So it's still kind of a watch and see. And, we still have a lot of earnings, though. There are still tons of earnings that are coming out next week and probably the next couple of weeks. I'll put it that way. We're going to start seeing the retailers coming out. You're going to see Lowe's and Home Depot and TJ Maxx and all those kind of things. And I think that's going to be kind of interesting to kind of see how the retailers are doing. Tomorrow we get retail sales. So we get to see how the month of January did on retail sales. So we've had the CPI, PPI, Powell talking, and then tomorrow we get to end the week with retail sales. So retail sales probably are going to be steady. I'll put it that way. If you look at the jobless claims numbers this morning, they were actually improved a little bit. There were less people filing for unemployment, and there were less people staying on unemployment. So, which is a good thing. It means people are still out there hiring, I guess. That or they're just dropping off, period. whichever it may be. But anyway, that's the one thing that I mean is going to be kind of interesting to see, how the economy does, and can it sustain itself uh, through these new times, if you will. But I think people are running into to safety and security into gold and silver and stuff like that. And of course, the central banks are still buying it up hand over fist. So I think once we, it's going to probably going to take another month or so to see what Congress is going to be doing, what they're passing, not passing. I mean, they still are working on a budget. The last I heard, they kicked the can down the road for a while. I don't know how long that's going to be, but I don't think it's been too long. So we'll just kind of see what that does over the next month or two, and then start seeing how the market is agreeing or disagreeing. Does it move up or does it start correcting back down? As strong as the S&P has been, we haven't had a real good correction in the market in a while. So it might be due for one of those, but right now it's closer to the highs than it is the lows. So I think we just kind of stay on the long side, um, and in the metals and indexes until the tide changes, and we'll kind of go from there. But I think overall, the markets have held up very, very well. The the stocks of as far as just kind of checking the ones that I usually look at have actually done pretty well on their earnings. Of course, sometimes they get sold off on good earnings. Sometimes they get bought on bad earnings, whichever it may be. So you just have to kind of see what direction the stock is being traded as opposed to really looking at the earnings thing, saying, "Hey, this thing was actually really good. What's wrong with this?" So, but overall, they've been kind of pushing them up a little bit, which has been nice. But yeah, we still have tons of stuff. And in fact, I think Nvidia comes out next week. Where was that? Uh, on Nvidia. There it is. On the 26th, Nvidia comes in after the close. Everybody's going to be watching that one. So, but I guess that'll be, well, I guess that's week after next. Uh, so I think the 21st is next week. 14, 21, right. So it's going to be Monday, Tuesday the next week. We'll see Nvidia earnings coming out, and we'll get some retailers next week, then Nvidia the next week. So I think that'll kind of tell us what everything's going to be doing as far as the market's concerned, technology wise. And I mean, everybody wants to know how their AI chips are going along, right? So, but with that, that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, and we'll come back on Tuesday and see how retail sales have done and kind of what some of the earning guys has done, and see if any other newses have hit the screen. So, uh, where do I start? You um, where do I start to know everything that I expect to see weekly? You should see most of that in one click, Donna. You'll see all the programs and stuff like that in the one click area. If you have questions, make sure you send an email to support@prosperitypub.com, and they will help you out tremendously. Also, if you go to prosperitypub.com/Geof Smith, there's a whole bunch of stuff there as well on what to expect with me and all that good stuff. And in fact, I'll pop that uh, both of those in here unless DA beat me to it here. So hold on. First of all, that there's the support email. Then if you want to go to, you'll find a bunch of stuff there as well. You bet. And if they'll contact me if they're trying to find something out or whatever it is, and then I can kind of help out as well. But they should have all the information for you, all nice and ready to rock and roll. And today we'll be putting out a new gold trade, so be ready for that. We'll be seeing if gold wants to continue to move on up, and I think it will. So, but yeah, they put the replays, Mickey. I think it might be at the prosperitypub.com/Geof Smith. I don't know. Dakota or DA might know that better than me, where the replays are. But there he goes. There we go. Perfect. That's what I thought. So, but yes, it is at that prosperitypub.com/Geof Smith, and you can find the replays there. Actually assumed something right for once. Yay. So, all righty. Well, thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back on Tuesday and we'll rock and roll and see what things have done. But thanks for coming in today and stay safe.